All right, so we're back. We're live. I'm gonna go ahead and do some testings with a dynamic scaling resolution option, which is called DSR. Dynamic scaling resolution is something that has been used before, but I want to test it on the 3090 Ti to see like how well it handles it. I also have maxed out pretty much all of the options on my Nvidia 3D settings, which I'm going to show you in a minute here. Let me go to my control panel right here. I'll show it to you. I have utilized everything here, from image scaling to ambient occlusion to anisotropic filtering, texture filtering, to anti-aliasing FXAA, to even anti-aliasing transparency maxed out, and then of course all the CUDA cores are turned on. I also have found out there's a little switch on the 3090 Ti, on the 3090 Ti, a little switch where you can turn that switch to choose overclocking. And I left the switch to overclock, and we're going to see how that works. I also have turned on the dynamic scaling resolution up to I think 12K, but we're not gonna push it to 12K. We're just gonna go to 8K DSR and see how that handles. 12K would be something maybe with a 3090 Ti SLI overclock. So pretty much everything is kind of maxed out as it is on the 3D settings. And the dynamic scaling resolution, it's set to 50% smoothness, so it should look a little bit better. But we're gonna see. We're gonna test it. We're gonna try it. We're gonna see how it looks. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and fire up the flight simulator. We're gonna test this with a flight simulator to see how well this card handles all of these elements put together. Like how well it handles it, you know, when you got all these graphical settings pretty much cranked up to its highest possible detail, and also on top of the highest possible detail to see how well it handles it with a higher scaled resolution. Now keep in mind, this is going to be forced scaled resolution. It's not a native resolution, okay? It's not like we're running a native 8K monitor or anything like that. I think this card would have throttled maybe 20 frames or 23 frames at 8K resolution, like on medium settings. But this is a scaled resolution, so we're going to see how that fluctuates. All right, so now that I have explained that, we're going to go ahead. We're going to fire up Flight Simulator. We're going to go ahead and do that really quick. There it is. Currently it's launching right now. The game's launching, so I just want to make sure that my display capture, hold on. There we go. There it is. So this will be interesting. This will be interesting to see how well it's going to handle this. I don't expect, to be honest with you, even with this colossal, behemoth of a card, I don't think it's going to be like handling, even with DSR, dynamic scaled resolution, I don't think it's going to handle it that well. Possibly maybe 28 to 29 frames, which still, it's not bad. It's still roughly around 30 FPS, but we'll see. Now, DSR, it's nothing new. DSR, it's something that Nvidia has implemented a long time ago. That's for those of you who don't have 8K monitor and you just want to kind of scale that resolution to see how the image is going to look. Now, scaling the resolution even on a 4K monitor to 8K, it's still going to look a bit sharper because you're putting more pixels. It's like trying to fit, let's say, a stadium that has about 3,000, let's say small little stadium, 3,000 people can only fit on that stadium. Now, that's the capacity, 3,000 people. So let's say you want to put 8,000 people on a 3,000 capacity stadium. It's going to look very crowded, but at the same time, think about those people as pixels. And those pixels, even though they're scaled and they're being put inside a 3,000 population stadium, that 8,000 still looking from the space, looking from afar, it's still going to look better detailed. It's going to stand out. So that's pretty much how DSR works. The more pixels you have, the more detail, the sharper detail you're going to see. But you have to remember that requires also more GPU power, more memory RAM. That requires obviously more power from your computer as it is. But that's what we're doing. We're trying just to see what we can do with this card, before I have to ship it and return it, just to see what's possible. I don't know how many of you are familiar with DSR and all this other stuff, but if you haven't tried it, I think you should try it. I don't normally use it because it's a bottleneck, but the problem with the DSR is everything becomes more scaled, and the letters become smaller, harder to read. The objects become smaller and harder to read because you're scaling so many pixels, right, on a monitor that doesn't support that, resolution. But I figured it would be an interesting test. I figured it would be interesting to test, to push this card to the limits to see what it can do, and I couldn't think of a better game than Flight Simulator because it requires so much power. I figured this would be a perfect example to do this. As far as the temperature on this card, I haven't had any major issues so far with the 3090 Ti. The temperature has been consistent, 73 to maybe 80 Celsius. 80 Celsius, it only time hits 80 Celsius if I'm using a VR, or if I'm using all the graphical settings to the maximum with VR. I noticed that it spikes to 86 Celsius, but that's normal when it's on an overload like that. All right, still loading. It's going to take a little while because remember, we're pushing this to the limits, man. So that's why it's going to take a little while to load. I might not even be able to do this because it's going to probably suck even more power out of the GPU. I mean, out of the power supply. So we'll see what happens. But I do have it on the overclock. There's a low switch. I don't know if you guys know. On the EVGA cars. You know where the SLI is on the left side? Just the opposite of the SLI on the right side, there's a little switch. And on the top of that switch, it says OC overclock, free performance, and then normal. You got 3 different options. The one I chose was the overclock, so I pushed it all the way back. Did I see any improvement? I actually did see the improvement on Flight Simulator at 4K. When I put it at the 4K Ultra, I was getting like about 53 frames instead of 43 frames. When I turned off the overclock, I was getting something roughly about 43 frames in native 4K Ultra. But when I pushed it to the OC, that switch, when I pushed it to the OC overclock, I was getting about 53 frames native 4K Ultra. And I think that's roughly that pretty much everyone's getting, whether you have i9 processor or 32 gigs of RAM or 64 gigs of RAM. Anybody out there is getting roughly the same thing, because Flight Simulator, it's really not optimized to go above 60 frames at 4K. At 4K, it's really it's, if you can keep it steady at 60. I've seen people with the SLI 3090s with that bridge link from EVGA. I've seen people even with the SLI barely stay at the 60 at Ultra, like maybe 57, 58, 60. It keeps varying between 60 to 57 to 58, but it's never a consistent 60. We might even be able to do this though. I don't know. It's still loading. So we're gonna see what happens. I might have to reload it again. Let me see. I might have to do this again as a administrator. Here we go. Let's see now. Because what I'm doing pretty much, it's pushing it. I mean, I don't even know if my power supply will be able to handle this, you know. And I mean, DSR, because when you put all of these graphical settings to the maximum and you use the DSR, which is dynamic scale resolution, that's gonna put a huge strain onto this GPU, man. So that's why I'm testing this, to see if it's even possible to handle this with a DSR, which is dynamic scale resolution. I think it's worth a try. But I don't expect, honestly, I don't expect much from it because this game, as it is, even without all of the graphical accolades like DSR and ambient inclusion and texture filtering, it's still having a problem. Even at native 4K Ultra hitting the 60, it's like maybe 48, 49 frames, and then drops down to 39 to 38 depending where you are in the region, in the game. But we'll see what happens. That's why we're testing. I mean, I've seen people with the SLI like struggle with the 8K, honestly. And we're talking DSR 8K, like scaling 8K. It's not even native 8K. I don't think anyone would even dare like to run something native 8K at Ultra. We'll see what happens. I might not even be able to use these features, to be honest with you. From the looks of it, it looks like that it's struggling to even use those features. Because it just shows you how power hungry this flight simulator really is when it comes to utilizing all those features. But we'll see what happens. Personally, I don't think it's gonna work because using the DSR scaling resolution, as you can see, it's just begging for more power. It's begging for more PSU power to render all of that. So what I would recommend for this card, it's Supernova EVGA 1600 watts power supply. Honestly, I think that's where you want to be. I was looking at the JZ forums, and a lot of people on his thread on the forums, they're saying on the Reddit the same thing, that even Pulse Hardware said that. Not just Jay-Z, but Pulse Hardware said. Even Nexus guy said the same thing. They were all there on the forums. They said that because it's such a power-hungry card. I mean, it has like a 3 8-pin connectors. Actually, it has even more. It has like a 16-pin in the back connector as a matter of fact, in the back. It's such a power-hungry card that 1600 watts EVGA Supernova, it's something where you're gonna at least feel comfortable knowing that, okay, if this thing wants to drink so much of the power GPU, that 1600 watts, at least I have some extra room for breathing. So yeah, this is not gonna work, guys. I don't think you can handle it, though, to be honest with you. Let's see. Yeah, we're gonna turn off the DSR and all that stuff. Yeah, I cannot handle it, man. It's just it doesn't have that power to do that. The only way I could do this if I had like a 1600 watt power supply to turn the DSR on, but we're gonna have to go ahead and bring everything to default. Because yeah, look what I have everything turned on. I mean, look at this. There's just no way. Because my power supply simply cannot handle all of these scaled resolutions with all of these graphical settings maxed out. It's just simply not gonna happen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna restore it and bring it back to its normal features. So yes, and I'm gonna apply it. There we go. What's up, Gian? How you doing, man? I do mean to try Red Dead Redemption 2, but probably on the weekend. Maybe this Saturday. I'm gonna play around with that. But it's just too late for me to do it today and tomorrow because I'll be busy. And on Friday, I got something I gotta do with Holly. But maybe Saturday I could, fire up a Red Dead Redemption 2. So obviously this DSR, it's not gonna work. So we turn that off. What I'm gonna do is bring everything at default here, and we're gonna keep it at balanced and apply it over here like that. Because this is the one thing that I don't like about these GPUs right now. They're so power hungry. And I think this is gonna be a question where you're gonna have to ask yourself, like, dude, are we getting to the point where it's not bad enough that these GPUs are so big and they're so expensive, but on top of being so big and expensive, where you have to build a bigger case to fit those suckers in, but at the same time you have to think about a bigger motherboard. So that means cost goes higher now. Not only do you have to pay all this extra money to buy these super expensive GPUs, now you have to think about a motherboard, more expensive motherboard to handle the PCI Express slots for these big behemoths of the cards. That costs money. Bigger case costs money. What type of cooling? You're definitely going to need a thermal take cooling. That's going to cost money. And then power supply, 1600 watts, Supernova, you're looking at like $400. It's still expensive. And of course, CPU and all that, memory RAM, sure. So when you really think about it, like just the cost of building a PC for you to truly enjoy, let's say, 4K 60 or 8K 30 frames per second, you're looking at like $4,000 easily, $4,000. It's still expensive. You know, PCs are now. You don't have to. You don't have to. You can. I think majority of people will be satisfied with 1440p, right? But they're going to be satisfied with 1440p, 80 frames per second, 120 frames per second, 1440p, 3080 Ti, and I think that's where a majority of people are going to be at. They're going to be at the 1440p. But if you truly want to jump into 4K, if you truly want to jump into a 4K 60 and 8K 30, then you have to be prepared to cash out like at least $4,000 or more. Don't forget the monitor. You have to pay for the monitor, a 4K monitor or 4K television. So you're looking somewhere in the ballpark of like $5,000 to $6,000, and that's cheap. Actually, that's cheap. So yeah, it's becoming like ridiculously expensive, and I can't wait to see like how ridiculous it's going to be with these 40 series GPUs. The ridiculous requirements, the ridiculous power usage requirements, the CPU requirements, the motherboard requirements, the cooling requirements, power supplies, ridiculous behemoth, 1,800 watts or 2,000 watts power supplies. It's just going to be, it's really getting more and more ridiculous when you start thinking about it. Well, you're going to say to yourself, man, I just want to play a video game. What is this, wasting all this money to build a goddamn PC for what? Unless you are, working at the video production, After Effects, Industrial Light and Magic, and you need all that. Or if you're a game developer and you're building video games, fine. But if you're not doing any of that stuff, I can't imagine anybody wasting $6,000, $5,000, even $7,000 on these behemoths of the PCs. It's just really ridiculous, man. Honestly. Now, that's if you only care about the 4K and beyond. If you don't care about the 4K resolution, if you just care about 1440p, 100 frames per second, you don't care about the ray tracing, and you'll be fine with 3080, 3070 Ti, like 3070, 1440p, more than enough, with an i5 processor or i7 processor, 16 gigs of RAM. Like, you'll be more than adjusted well for that. But these behemoths are just like too much. Anyway, so let's start this up. Let's start the flight simulator again. Now it should work, obviously. It will work now because we're... we have turned off all the other features. There we go. There it is. What's up, Jaws? How you doing, man? I mean, even right now, look how power hungry this GPU is, man. I'm good, man. Thank you for asking, brother. Just doing some tests on 3090 Ti before I ship it back on August 11th. My problem is, you know, I should have told EVGA. Problem is, my power supply is just. They should have sent me a power supply like Supernova, EVGA, because this card, it's so power hungry, dude. Unbelievable, man. This thing drinks your electrical bill. This thing will drink your electrical bill, man. I don't know if that's a good thing, man. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, no one seems to talk about this. I think Jay-Z and the Nexus guy, and well, I think only 3 people talked about it. Jay-Z, Nexus, and Paul Hardware. They talked about it. Just like how ridiculous this GPU is. The 3090s drinking all this power supply. Where they need a minimum 850 watts. Think about that. That's just the minimum. So basically, for you to sit pretty with this card, you got to be looking at 1600 watts. That's just to be comfortable. 1600 watts. And that's just insane, man. That's just insane. If this doesn't work, I'll use the afterburner. I'm gonna try to manipulate a couple of things. On it. We'll see what happens. I might even turn off the overclocking OC. Yeah, Jaws, it's getting ridiculous, man. I mean, think about that. Just a minimum 850 watts for a GPU, man. That makes you wonder, what about your motherboard? What about your USB ports? What about your CPU? I mean, you're gonna need a 2000 watt power supply, man. It's really getting like ridiculous. Like, this is not a breakthrough or achievement in GPU evolution. I think Nvidia needs to think about, can we make a powerful GPU that doesn't require that much power? I think that's what they should be focusing on. But this 30 series, I hope that the 40 series, it's the step back from this, where it says we don't need to make these big GPUs. We can make them smaller, and we can make them more economically sufficient with the usage of power. So I don't think there's anything to brag about the 30 series, to be honest with you, because they're so power hungry cards, and I think that's ridiculous. I think Nvidia is going backward. Nvidia is not going forward. They're going backwards. Like, come on, dude. It's 2022, almost 2023. We need to be focusing on using less power, not drinking so much power on these GPUs, man. Well, consoles are honestly more efficient, easier to play. It's just more convenient. You know what I mean? They're more convenient. With the PC, you got so many problems. You got, you know, your Windows drivers, update for this, update for that. You know, there's so many things you have to worry about on the PC. There's so many challenges. On top of so many challenges with compatibility, you also have to spend a lot of money. I mean, especially now with the way the economy is and everything. I mean, 1,500 quids, right? That's during this inflation. It's insane. Or that's just for the GPU. Or paying $2,000 dollars or $3,000 for a GPU. Paying $400 for a power supply. Building a case, thermal take cooling, liquid cooling. If you go with the air cooling, that's going to cost you as well. CPU, memory, RAM, specific kind of a motherboard that can go up to $600, $700. All that stuff adds up, man. And then you end up total of like $4,000 to maybe $5,000, $6,000. Or 6,000 quids, whatever. And then you say to yourself, holy shit, man. That's a lot of money just so I can play a video game. That the same video game that I can play on my console, right? This flight simulator is going to look just as good on the Xbox Series X as it's going to be looking on the PC. The difference is on the Series X, you're not paying arm and leg to play it. But here, you're paying arm and leg just to play it. So there's that too, to consider. I'm not sure what's going on here. Let me see if I can repair this. Let me try to repair this app. Let me go to properties, see if I can repair it. General. See what I can do here. Let me move the core clock speed over here. Memory clock speed. There. And then let me try to let me go to settings. Let me try to verify and repair. This might take a little while. Let's see what I can do. I also might need to switch the overclocking. I thought about maybe doing that. I'm going to switch it to normal. I'm going to open my case. There's a little switch over here where you can move it from the overclocking to standard normal. It's a bit of both. JAWS it uses the internet to render the world data, for the geometry down on the ground, and also to render the live weather. So it uses the internet for that, but that's mainly the server issue, honestly. As long as their servers are working fine, then you shouldn't have any problem. If you got a stable internet, you should be okay. It's a mixed bag. It's a bit of both. You still need graphical power to render that photogrammetry. Yes, it's collecting it. The data is being collected from the server, but the GPU still has to render that, at a certain frame. So it's a mixed bag. It's a bit of both. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna open my case here, and I'm gonna go ahead. There's a little switch. I got my little handy dandy little light. I'm gonna go down there and look into it, and I'm gonna switch it back to normal. Let me just get my case out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I'm gonna bring it back to, let me see, performance. Maybe I should do that. I'm gonna keep it at performance, so let's see what happens. I don't know if you guys knew about that or not, that there's a switch. I didn't know about this either, but I contacted EVGA and they said that there's a little switch on the top of it for you to choose between overclocking, normal, and performance, which is kind of cool. So now that I have repaired the files, let's see if it's going to work now. I also got the afterburn to turn on as well. What's up, Deacon? How you doing? Hey, how you doing, Forbidden Love? Console, it's plug and play, but games are more expensive. Well, everything's expensive, what I mean? If you really look at it, the cost of living, it's expensive. Food, everything. It's just ridiculous. This is where, Premium Plus, PlayStation, and the Xbox Game Pass, and even GameFly. See, here in America, we have a GameFly. I don't think you guys have that in UK, in United Kingdom. But here we got this GameFly, and the GameFly, it's really a godsend. If you're somebody who's streaming a lot, I think GameFly, it's probably your best choice. You can rent 4 games at a time. You can even rent movies, and you can keep the games that you like for half a price, so you don't have to pay the full price. And then they give you the discounts. They give you the codes to shave that price even lower. And you can buy, let's say you had Call of Duty for about 3 months, and the original price was $70. Now you can buy for $10 on a GameFly. So there's definitely a huge benefit of GameFly, I think. So GameFly, Game Pass, PlayStation Plus Premium, those subscription services definitely can still let you enjoy being a gamer, where you don't have to spend arm and leg. Paying $70 for video games here and there, to me, it's just too much, man. Honestly. I mean, there's options out there. Look, man, you don't have to build a high-end PC. You can build a decent PC, 1440p with a 3070 or 3060. You don't have to go all out, There's that. Or you can go with the cloud. There's a cloud gaming, but cloud gaming has its positives and negatives. You don't own the games you pay for. The internet, and it's not stable. I mean, everything has its ups and downs, positives and negatives. There's no such thing as a perfect harmony. If you're looking for that perfect harmony, you ain't gonna find it. You're only gonna find disappointment. wherever you go. All right, so now it's not going to load up at all, man. I might have to delete the drivers and install the drivers again. Or something. Now it's not going anywhere. We'll keep it like this. See what happens. You know, see where it goes. Oh yeah. Well, the biggest headache, I'm pretty sure, it's gonna be your pockets. You know, your wallet. That's the thing, man. About the PCs is these things are expensive. You know, and then you're saying to yourself, well, dude. Yes, you know, you can play VR. You can do that. You can do some other things, but you say to yourself, like, it's too expensive, like just to jump into PC gaming at this point, you know. And then you spend all this money, right? You know, you built all these PCs. I've seen people spend $5,000, $6,000 on the PC, and then it doesn't work. This game doesn't work with that game. I mean, with that PC. This game over here, it's not compatible. You got to do this. You got to do that. You have to see. Right now, I have to delete the drivers and install the drivers again, which is ridiculous because I was manipulating something on the Nvidia, and because I was manipulating something on the Nvidia, now I screwed something up with this game, and I'll have to most likely delete the drivers and install the drivers again. You know, I wish that I didn't manipulate any of it, but you know, that's the kind of headaches you have to deal with, man. As you can see clearly here. Not to mention that these GPUs, man, they just drink power. They're just drinking power. You know. No, definitely not worth the money. Now, 3070, yeah, you know, get yourself a 3070. It's only $500, 500 quids. You can buy it for 400, maybe out there somewhere in the wild. Go with a 3070 or 3060, you'll be fine, you know. But these behemoths, you know, like a 3080 Ti and 3090 and 3090 Ti, it's just it's just a money grab. It's just a money grab. I only got two. I got the SSD and I got the mechanical hard drive. Yeah, the 6900 XT rig sold at all. What kind of performance did you get with the AMD Radeon 6900 XT? Oh yeah, I said of course it's well optimized, you know. For a game like that, you're good with a 2070, 2080, 2080 Ti. But there's certain games that are just not well optimized, obviously, and this is one of them. That's just not well optimized. You know what I mean? But if you're running a well optimized game, yeah, dude. It all depends on what you're looking for. I always tell people, like, it all depends what you are looking for. So I'm gonna have to delete these drivers and come back, guys, and then install it clean again. Unfortunately, $3,000 in the rig. But see, that's the question. Do you really need it? I'm sure you asked yourself a question. Do I really need this? Am I, like, what's the point? Like, who cares if you go a little higher frame rate? Like, is it gonna be that much of a, like, is it gonna be like life and death situation? Like, I think people exaggerate that shit. 60 FPS is just fine. Some people like to exaggerate at 120 FPS. It's oh, this and that. But maybe that's just me. I just don't think it's not a life and death situation where you gotta have 120 FPS, 60 FPS, even on the racing games is more than enough, to be quite honest. But people like to measure everything in numbers. That's the thing. Everything has to be measured in numbers. It's like the size of your dick. Mine's bigger, therefore I can handle things better than your medium-sized dick. So that's the clusterfuck you have in a PC community. It's like being measured. It's not just a PC community, it's a console community, television community. You pick and fucking choose which community. It's always being measured by some fucking numbers of egos, bragging rights, like mine's bigger than yours, I can operate faster than you, and all this other nonsense horseshit, Yet some of the people out there, yet the person barely can scrap, $15 to buy a hamburger, right? But the person is buying all this other shit just to have the bragging rights, To me, that's not important, honestly. I don't really get caught up in these numbers. I don't think it's that important, Sure, it looks nice, but it's not like necessity, Unless you're competing on esports, right? Unless you're a competitor on esports and you're competing on Counter-Strike, PUBG, Fortnite, Call of Duty, and you're going through all these, championships, and you're an esport competitor, then yeah, for you, sure, that's very important. But if you're not competitor, if you're not competing, it's like, who cares? Who gives a shit? That's just me. Anyway, I gotta delete the drivers, gotta come back, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. Unfortunately, I have to delete the drivers. I have to install them again, clean slate drivers, because what happens is once you manipulate the DSR, dynamic scale resolution, and all the other features that I was using, once you do that, then clearly you screw up compatibility with Flight Simulator. So I'll have to again delete the drivers and start a new fresh clean install. Yeah, it's all about being able to play the games with your friends. Yeah, but unfortunately, we're all different, man. 8.4 billion people on this planet, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Running something at a higher frame rate, or if you're wanting to have everything at the highest possible frame rate. I'm just simply saying that, to me personally, I'm okay with 60 FPS. To be honest with you, I'm like okay with that. To be honest, Well, the way I look at it is this way. If you are investing money into something and you're not getting anything out of it, then you're losing money. If you need to get the money you invest, you should have a much higher kickback. If you're paying more than what you're getting out of it, then you're losing pretty much. So that's the way I look at it, like the investment. If I'm going to spend $6,000 onto something, I better make $12,000 on that, right? So what's the point of investing your hard-earned money into something that you don't get anything out of, but just lose the money? So it's like that's if you look at it from a business point of view, like why invest into something that you don't get anything out of it, you know? Unless you're filthy rich, unless you got money is like flying from the sky onto your roof. You open the attic and the money just pours right in. If you're filthy rich, well, that's a different story. But even if you're filthy rich, it's like still, like, what's the point, you know? Why do that? All right, guys, I'll be back. I have to delete the drivers, obviously. I have to reinstall the drivers again, and then I got to try it. Yeah. So I'll see you guys later.